Tensions between Venezuela and the United States have reached one of their highest points in years following Caracas' unveiling of advanced Russian-made Kh-31 ship killer missiles. These supersonic anti-ship weapons, capable of reaching speeds up to Mach 3.5, were showcased during large-scale Venezuelan naval exercises off the Caribbean coast. The demonstration, broadcast on state television, was meant to send a powerful message to Washington: Venezuela will defend its territorial waters and sovereignty at any cost. President Nicolás Maduro, surrounded by senior military officials, declared that the new missile system symbolizes the shield of independence against foreign aggression. The Kh-31 missiles, originally developed by Russia to destroy enemy warships and radar installations, have a range of nearly 250 kilometers and can penetrate advanced U.S. naval defenses. Their arrival in Venezuela marks a dramatic shift in the regional balance of power. For years, Venezuela has relied on older Soviet-era equipment, but this latest acquisition reflects deeper military cooperation with both Russia and Iran. Defense analysts suggest that Russian advisors may already be stationed in the country to assist with training and maintenance. For Washington, the display represents a direct challenge. The U.S. Navy frequently operates in the Caribbean under the banner of anti-narcotics patrols and freedom of navigation missions, but the presence of high-speed anti-ship missiles now adds a dangerous dimension. Pentagon officials privately fear that even a misinterpretation of radar data or a test launch could spark an international crisis. As both sides tighten their military readiness, regional observers warn that the Caribbean, once considered a relatively stable zone, could soon become the stage for a modern Cold War confrontation, pitting U.S. naval power against an increasingly emboldened Venezuela backed by Moscow and Tehran. The unveiling of Venezuela's Russian-made Kh-31 ship killer missiles has triggered strong reactions across the globe, particularly in Washington. U.S. defense officials have condemned the move as a dangerous provocation, warning that such weapons in the hands of an unstable regime could ignite a serious regional crisis. The Pentagon has since placed several naval assets in the Caribbean on heightened alert, with intelligence aircraft conducting regular surveillance flights near Venezuelan territorial waters. Any launch or targeting activity will be met with an immediate response, one senior defense source told U.S. media outlets. Internationally, reactions have been divided along familiar geopolitical lines. Russia praised Venezuela's sovereign right to self-defense, framing the deployment as part of its growing security partnership with Latin America. Moscow's state media portrayed the drills as a demonstration of a strategic deterrence against U.S. interference in the region. Iran, too, hailed the move, describing it as a victory for nations resisting Western dominance. In contrast, regional neighbors such as Colombia, Guyana, and Brazil have expressed concern that the missile deployment could destabilize already fragile security conditions in the Caribbean basin. Defense analysts warn that the situation has the potential to spiral quickly. The Kh-31's range overlaps key maritime routes used by U.S. and allied forces, increasing the risk of miscalculation or accidental engagement. Some experts believe Venezuela's decision is aimed at forcing Washington back to the negotiation table on sanctions relief, using military pressure as leverage. Others argue that Maduro's display of force is primarily domestic, an attempt to rally nationalist sentiment and distract from Venezuela's ongoing economic collapse. Whatever the motive, one thing is clear. The deployment of supersonic Russian missiles on America's doorstep has reignited fears of Cold War-style brinkmanship, with unpredictable consequences for the entire hemisphere. The introduction of Russian Kh-31 ship killer missiles into Venezuela's arsenal carries profound implications for both regional and global security dynamics. For Latin America, this marks a sharp militarization of the Caribbean, a region historically defined more by trade and diplomacy than missile deterrence. Neighboring nations such as Colombia and Guyana now face a tense new reality: advanced strike capabilities just across their borders. Both have quietly urged restraint, calling for de-escalation through the Organization of American States, OAS. Yet, privately, regional defense ministries are reassessing their own naval preparedness amid fears of a broader arms buildup. For Washington, the move represents a direct challenge to its decades-long naval dominance in the Western Hemisphere. The presence of Mach 3.5 anti-ship missiles capable of threatening U.S. destroyers undermines the security assumptions that have guided American maritime strategy since the Cold War. Analysts note that the Kh-31 system's mobility, mounted on fast aircraft or coastal batteries, makes it difficult to monitor or neutralize preemptively. In response, the Pentagon has reportedly increased intelligence surveillance and deployed advanced Aegis-equipped vessels closer to Venezuelan waters to counter any potential threat. Globally, the deployment further cements Russia's strategic foothold in Latin America. Moscow has long sought to expand influence near U.S. borders as a counterbalance to NATO expansion in Europe. By supplying Venezuela with cutting-edge weaponry, Russia signals that it can project power in the U.S. backyard just as Washington supports Ukraine in Eastern Europe. Iran's support compounds this challenge, as Tehran seeks to deepen defense cooperation with Caracas amid its own standoff with the West. Together, these developments suggest that Venezuela's missile announcement is not an isolated event, but part of a coordinated strategy to test U.S. resolve and reshape the regional balance of power. As the crisis unfolds, diplomatic efforts to prevent escalation between the United States and Venezuela are intensifying, but with limited success so far. Washington has reached out through back-channel communications, reportedly involving intermediaries from Mexico and Turkey, urging Caracas to suspend further missile drills and allow international monitoring. However, President Nicolás Maduro remains defiant, declaring that Venezuela will not negotiate its sovereignty. His government insists the missile deployments are purely defensive and meant to deter any foreign acts of aggression. Meanwhile, the United Nations and several Latin American governments have called for restraint. Brazil, which maintains uneasy relations with both Washington and Caracas, has offered to host emergency talks to de-escalate the situation. The European Union, too, has expressed concern, warning that the introduction of high-speed anti-ship weapons risks destabilizing the entire Caribbean region. Despite these appeals, neither side appears ready to back down. The U.S. continues to increase its naval patrols, while Venezuela's military posts daily videos showcasing new training exercises involving the Kh-31 missile batteries. Behind the scenes, intelligence reports suggest Russian and Iranian military advisors remain active in Venezuela, helping integrate radar systems and improve targeting accuracy. This deepens Washington's concern that Caracas could become a permanent outpost for adversarial powers. Analysts also warned that the crisis may be entering a dangerous psychological phase, where political posturing and national pride replace rational diplomacy. The situation evokes echoes of the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962, though on a smaller scale. Once again, U.S. forces find themselves confronting advanced foreign missiles in the Caribbean, this time under the leadership of a Venezuelan government determined to assert independence. Unless dialogue prevails soon, even a minor incident, such as a radar lock or airspace violation, could ignite a conflict neither side truly desires. With tensions rising in the Caribbean, both Venezuela and the United States have entered a state of heightened military readiness. According to defense analysts, the Venezuelan armed forces have mobilized key coastal defense units along the northern coastline, positioning mobile radar stations and missile launchers at strategic points near Puerto Cabello and La Guaira. The Kh-31 ship killer missiles, capable of striking at speeds exceeding Mach 3.5, are believed to be paired with Russian radar systems that can track U.S. ships and aircraft deep into the Caribbean Sea. Venezuelan state media has aired footage of mock targeting exercises involving U.S.-style warship silhouettes, reinforcing the government's message of deterrence. On the U.S. side, the Pentagon has quietly reinforced its naval presence in the region. At least 2 guided missile destroyers and a surveillance aircraft detachment have been deployed to monitor Venezuelan activity. American reconnaissance satellites have also been repositioned to gather real-time intelligence on the movement of missile systems. Officials have been instructed to avoid direct confrontation but to remain ready for immediate defensive response should any missile launch or radar lock occur. Experts outline several potential scenarios. In the best case, diplomatic negotiations, perhaps mediated by Brazil or the UN, could defuse the situation and lead to limited transparency measures. In a moderate scenario, Venezuela might conduct a live-fire missile test, prompting a stern but controlled U.S. response. However, the worst-case scenario involves miscalculation, a radar misread or accidental missile launch leading to armed engagement between U.S. and Venezuelan forces. Given the presence of Russian and Iranian advisors on Venezuelan soil, any such clash could escalate beyond a bilateral dispute, drawing in global powers. For now, the Caribbean remains on edge, its calm waters hiding an undercurrent of high-stakes brinkmanship.